Welcome back. We're going to continue on with working with our inheritance project in Pokemon. As you can see right here, we have those private data members that exist up here at the very top of our base class with our abstract base class Pokemon. And we have our super constructor that takes two parameters right here. And we want to be able to access that super constructor in our subclass so we can do some cool stuff with that. And so we're going to go ahead and take a look at a class that will inherit from Pokemon and see how we can make that happen. So we'll go ahead and start that off right now. I'm going to go ahead and just add a brand new class. So I'm going to just go to File, and then New, and then Class. And it's going to be inside our Pokemon project. And I'm going to go a new class, and we'll just do Squirtle because it's cute. And we start off right here with public class Squirrel, just a regular default class. That's great and wonderful. And I want to make sure that it can actually inherit from Pokemon. And so again, we're talking about inheriting from inheritance, we use the extends keyword. The extends keyword is what allows us to have access to that. And then I do Pokemon because that's the base class I'm working with on that. I'll go ahead and hit save, and oh no, I have this red line of doom. I've got an error message. And I take a look at that right here, and I say Squirtle, and it's like, oh, implicit super constructor is undefined for the default constructor. I must explicitly define a constructor for this. And because of the fact that I have over here in Pokemon.java, we have up here, we have that super constructor, that base constructor, where Pokemon takes those two parameters. I have to make sure I reference this constructor for inheritance to happen. And so inside my Squirtle class, I have to make sure I have a constructor that can work with that. And so I'm going to start off with my base constructor, my default constructor, as well as having a couple other constructors using the power of overloading a constructor. So I have three different constructors based on what I want to do with inside the actual structure. So the first one will be our default constructor. And so again, with the default constructor, it always starts as public. It has the name of the class as the name of the constructor, as always. No big deal there. And it has no parameters. And then inside there, because it's a constructor and we have inheritance, the first line needs to be a call to the parent class constructor. And we access that parent class constructor by doing a super call. So I do super and then parens. So when I pass the super constructor, the first thing it needs to have is its parameters. It needs to have its Pokedex number, which is 7. And then it has a name. Oh, it's Squirtle. So the default name for our Squirtle is going to be Squirtle. That's cute. Okay, great. And so now that I have that, I have my default constructor. As you can see, I hit save, and I no longer have a red line of doom right here on that. And so I have a class that goes up. It's going to say super, which means it goes up to the Pokemon class. It goes to the Pokemon constructor. And even though this is an abstract class, it can use this constructor right here as a super call. It can actually access it because it has a subclass reference to it. So we're good to go. I also want to make a couple overloaded constructors to go along with that. And again, when you're overloading a constructor, it's because you want to have the same name of something, in this case, functionality of a constructor, but I also want to add more functionality or customization to it. So with this one, I have a Squirtle constructor. I'm going to give it a string parameter name. I can name my Squirtle. Instead of having it just simply be Squirtle, I can have a Squirtle like Mr. Cool Squirty Boy or something cute like that. So again, I say super, and this time I still pass it 7 as its number, but then instead of passing a hard-coded string literal, I'll just pass it the parameter that goes inside the call from it when I call my Squirtle variable. Right there as name. And finally, so I can support inheritance with this because we're going to be working with inheritance inside our project, I need to have a third constructor. And this third constructor that needs to have two parameters. One that takes the Pokedex number, and finally the second parameter that takes the name of the Pokemon. So again, this is going to be public and Squirtle again. And this time it's going to have an int. Oops, get that off of caps lock. First it's going to have an int, and we'll call it number. And another one, a string, and we'll call it name again, because again, it just works great with that. And then we have super, and then parens, number, comma, name. And because I have this right here, it's going to send that information back up, like I said, for all these different constructors. The overload constructors all go to call Pokemon.java. They go inside Pokemon's public constructor right here and initialize all the data members for our Pokemon object. So Squirtle has a Pokedex number, Squirtle has a name, Squirtle can't evolve yet, and Squirtle's health is set to 100. And so right now I have it set right there, so I have that information automatically available, so it works properly. The next step we have is we want to make sure we can have it so we can work with this and have a bit of inheritance from Squirtle as well. And so that we'll go over in our next video. But our first class right here, we have our little subclass that extends Pokemon. We'll go ahead and make a new class that extends Squirtle so we can show how we can use those different super constructors in a more effective way in our next video. Thanks again. Have a great day. We'll see you next time. Cheers.